Welcome to Firebrand, ladies and gentlemen. I am TJ Haynes, the Catholic Firebrand and the undisputed technician of the truth. I thank you very much for joining me today as I adjust that level. Everyone catching this live is like, you were preparing all this time. Your audio level is still off, because I can't really check it until I start the show. Thanks for joining me, folks. Today, I'm going to talk to you about an interesting phenomenon that pairs with something that I have been observing and thinking about lately. The phenomenon, Gen Z returning to church. You've been hearing bits and pieces of that, but I have some additional thoughts about that, some more recent research that's been done on that. And I'm going to give you my thoughts about it, and it's not just Gen Z, and they're not just returning back to Catholicism. It's about a religion thing, and it comes to bear on this thought. Why are the young folks looking for Catholic traditionalism? Did you ever stop to think about that? Traditionalists will tell you they're flocking to the trad mass, the traditional Latin mass, because it's better. Is that really what it is? But I want to be clear right at the top. This is not going to be critical of traditionalism or the traditional Latin mass. If anything, it's going to come off as being supportive of traditionalism and the traditional Latin mass. But really, it's not. I mean, it's not for or against. It's an observation, okay? It's some observations that I want to share with you. What are we lacking today? What's missing that people in general are searching for and flocking to? That's what we're going to be talking. Not just Catholicism. I mean, it is, I'm specifically talking about Catholicism, but it's not just traditionalism. What's lacking in the modern church culture, and why are people finding it not just in traditionalism, but in a religion that they form for themselves? A religion that they form for themselves, independent of Catholicism. We're going to be talking about that today. I'm also going to be, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, I'm going to talk to you about, I wouldn't say it's a new direction for Firebranded. It is not a new direction. Maybe a development shift in how I do things a little bit. I'm going to do that at the bottom of the show, because the only ones who are going to be interested in that are the people who actually like what I'm doing. The people who are already, looking for the next episode, looking for the next live. Those are the people who are going to be most interested in that. It's only going to take 5 minutes to get into it, but I'm going to do that at the end of the show, okay? Some updates on how I'm going to be doing things. It's not a radical shift, but it's a course shift enough that I wanted to share some details about it with you, okay? If you'll just pardon me, I have to get my notes back in front of me. So first, actually, before I get into the show proper, let me tell you, this Monsignor Rossetti thing is really shocking to me. Ooh, forgot to hit record. Damn it, I keep doing that. This Monsignor Rossetti thing is a little bit shocking to me. If you don't know anything about that, you've been living under Iraq, or you've been living in Iraq, and you should go to theforge.fm or firebranded.fm for a podcast, or I guess you'll find it also here on YouTube, if you're seeing this on YouTube. Also, I wrote an article about it at theforge.fm, Monsignor Rossetti being removed as chief exorcist of the Archdiocese of Washington, D.C. The more I think about this, the more confusing, the more perplexing it is that he was removed as the chief exorcist. It's just so stupid to me, because, first of all, it's a really weak reason to, I guess, demote the priest. It's not really a demotion, but in a way you can think of it that way. It's a stupid reason, and the reason was undermining the very precise theology, the teaching of the church on the nature of angels. I mean, that is such a stretch. First of all, let's pretend it's not a stretch. Let's pretend that that's the truth. That is such a dumb reason to demote Monsignor Rossetti. I mean, super, super dumb. Also, it's such a stretch of a reason. This signals to me that that's not the real reason. It also signals that maybe there wasn't a real reason and he just wasn't liked. And that's not saying that he was unlikable. I'm just, I mean, really, we don't know, right? We don't work with him. But very strange. It's interesting that there is no one that I've encountered. Obviously, I'm one person. I do get around a lot, but I'm just one person. But there is no one I've encountered who's been happy about this, supportive of it, or neutral. Even no one's even been neutral on it. Everyone is like shocked and confused, like, what the hell is that? Even people who generally don't care about that sort of thing are like, what the hell is that? Very strange. If you haven't already, go to theforge.fm. I wrote an article basically going through the details of what was being reported, and then I give my own analysis of what I think is really the score. I go through why his comments were totally in line with Catholic teaching and church thought on the nature of angels and demons. And there's also a podcast there. It's very recent, so you'll find it no matter where you're finding this podcast. YouTube, firebranded.fm, theforge.fm, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're finding it, you're going to find that episode. It's very, very easy to find the episode that I did going a little bit deeper in my reaction to that. So, and finally, the other thing that I find amusing is, and very interesting, I'm seeing a lot of comments everywhere that I'm present on social media, various networks, and so on. Everyone is saying the same thing. What about Father James Martin? What about Father James Martin? Because he's constantly undermining church teaching, which I agree. What about James Martin? Here's my response to that. And I've been telling people I'm going to say a few words about that at the next podcast, so here I am. Or what about other exorcists? Here's the thing. What's distinctive about Monsignor Stephen Rossetti is he's within the diocesan ecosystem. An exorcist like Father James Martin, I'm sorry, God forbid, an exorcist like Father Chad Ripperger, however you pronounce his name, he's in a religious order. Forget about the fact that he's in a conservative religious order, which is meaningful. He's in a religious order. He's technically outside of the diocesan ecosystem. The diocesan ecosystem usually is a little bit more, it's hard to characterize. I'll just say plainly, a little bit more restrictive, a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more careful, a little bit less, I guess, lenient. You would think the religious orders are going to be more stringent, but the religious orders, anything of the church that is independent, like a religious order or a lay organization that's doing a radio network or a Catholic television station, something that's in a religious order or a lay order, they're usually more cutting edge. And because they're outside of the diocesan structure, they have the freedom to be cutting edge. They have the freedom to bring people in who are cutting edge. And they also have the freedom to be a little bit more bold and plain-spoken. Now, Father James Martin is also in a religious order. So he has a little bit more freedom to be bold and plain-spoken as he, in my opinion, undermines Catholic teaching. I want to be clear. I followed Father James Martin on socials for a while. I even read a little bit of his book, but his book was just not my thing. I would not call Father James Martin a heretic. I really, truly wouldn't. This is not me being safe. This is me being truthful with you. But my personal opinion, and it's a very well-informed opinion, he does play fast and loose with church teaching. For a while, I thought, well, he's just doing that to get his foot in the door, to be more welcoming, to build engagement and a relationship and dialogue. But the longer I followed him, the less convinced I was of that. My opinion, it's my opinion, based on my observation, he intentionally undermines or tries to skirt Catholic teaching. The same freedom that we see in independent organizations, which give us folks like Father Chad Ripperger or, say, a Pints with Aquinas. I know that's not a religious order, but Matt Fradd is independent, right? The same freedoms we see inherent in an independent, we'll call it system, free of a diocesan ecosystem, can give us very good orthodox content, or it can give us heterodox content. You understand? Even though James Martin is a Jesuit, that's independent. He himself is not independent, but what I'm saying is his brand comes from an independent ecosystem, and that makes all the difference. That is also why TJ Haynes of Fiat Media, Firebranded is a product of Fiat Media. That's my LLC. It's independent. There are things that I can say here that a diocesan priest generally probably wouldn't say. But I know some diocesan priests who do. There's one in particular who comes to mind. Very good priest. He's not rebellious or anything. Very good priest. But he frequently says things in homilies or in his broadcasts that I'm surprised he goes there. And despite that, he has a very good relationship with his bishop. So you do find it. But generally, independent folks like TJ Haynes of Fiat Media, host of the Firebranded podcast, father of the Forge.fm, independent folks usually do have a little bit more freedom. Okay? Sometimes usually it's a good thing. Sometimes it is not. Hashtag Father James Martin. Keep that in mind. Keep that in your back pocket because I may go back to that later. Okay, let's get in on the topic here. We're talking about young people returning to religion, okay? This is preliminary research that I was doing for an article. And I thought, this was a thought that I was having even up to this morning, okay, while I was at Mass. I can't get this stuff out of my head even when I'm at Mass. God help me, God help me. But I was thinking about this at Mass. Basically this, I understand why people go for traditionalism. I really do. And the more I think about it, I've always understood it, but the more I've been thinking about it lately, the more understanding I am about it. I would still caution against it, but we're not going to talk about that today. And I was thinking about this, about why people go to traditionalism and so on. And then as I was formatting this research for an article, I thought, this ties into my thoughts on traditionalism. Let me talk about that. That preamble is my way of telling you these notes are a little disorganized because they weren't meant for a podcast. I was in the middle of structuring my research and putting the researched bits in order, and then I was going to do an outline, and then I was going to write it. Okay, so that's what you're getting. You're getting the top of the funnel. Okay, I haven't even gotten the outline yet because in the middle of it, I thought this is really a podcast segment. Okay, let's get into it now. I'm wasting people's time. Before I do that, while I'm live, I'll probably edit this out so the on-demand people don't lose their patience with me. But I do want to say hello and welcome and thank you for joining me. To those of you catching me at the Forge.fm, aka Substack, and of course, hello and welcome and God bless you all to those of you catching me on YouTube. If you're not familiar with what I do, here's the thing. If you say something in the chat, I am probably going to go back and reference it and respond to it. Okay, if it's something that warrants a response or a question you ask. You guys matter to me. You guys count. I try to include everybody, even people who disagree with me. Okay, so chat it up, enjoy each other's company, learn from each other, not just from each other's knowledge being put down in the chat room, but also from each other's humanity expressed in the chat room. Learn from each other, enjoy each other, and know that I am present with you. I'm just going to do that in segments, okay? So I'm not going to go through what everyone's saying now. I wish I could. I'm trying to break away from the temptation because there's a lot of people chatting on YouTube, and it looks like stuff that I really want to comment on, but I have to get a little bit more disciplined. And hello also, by the way, to Sean Gardner. Sean Gardner is like a number one fan, or at least among the number ones. So thank you for catching me there on at the Forge.fm. And my friend Marek Kolego, Cześć Kolego, is joining me in their chat room in YouTube land, along with everybody else, and I thank you again. Okay, sip of coffee, then let's go. By the way, happy Feast of Corpus Christi. If you're not following me on Facebook, you're missing it, but I'm probably going to put this in an article either at the Forge, fullness.fm or at firebranded.fm. I'm in the middle of a series of posts on Firebranded's Facebook page at Firebranded FM on Facebook. A series of posts showing where the Eucharist is throughout Scripture, starting in Genesis. The prefigurement of the Holy Eucharist. I'm doing, I think, 7. I think I've posted 5. I think I have 2 more, something like that. So happy Feast of Corpus Christi. If you're catching me on Facebook, Firebranded FM, you've been getting the good stuff already. Okay. Okay. There are signs of increased religiosity among some segments of young adults, but it is complex, folks. Let's start there. It's complex. Recent research and polling in the United States suggests that young men 18 to 29 have shown considerable increase in the rate of religiosity, saying that religion is very important to them. Now, folks, that is up from, I think, 28%, something like that, at 42%. So it's at 42%, up from 28% in just the past couple of years. It's pretty remarkable. That's based on a Gallup research. So it's a significant reversal. You've been hearing a lot about Gen Z returning to church, and they are, but I would just caution you, and I wrote a really extensive article on this, analyzing the research data at theforge.fm. While the news is good, I wouldn't say numbers of youth in Catholic churches are exploding. What I will say is that the numbers are stabilized and they're starting to tick up a little bit. Across religions, Catholicism appears to be seeing the most gains, okay, which is interesting. But the broader picture still shows a decline or just bare stabilization. Long-term trends continue to show younger generations overall are less religious than older ones. But get this, in terms of their affiliation, their prayer life, stuff like that, frequency in which they attend service, which for Catholics, that's Mass. Okay? So in general, they're returning to religion, but they're doing it differently from how their parents and grandparents did. They're not all returning to tradition, whatever the traditionalism is, whether it's fundamental Protestantism or traditional Catholicism. They aren't all going there. Many of them are reporting themselves as religious, and religion is very important to me, but they're not necessarily diving back into the orthodox practice of their religion, namely a prayer life, attending Mass or church service on Sundays, and so on. There's a little video here I'm going to play for you. It's a news report from ABC News, some local affiliate, I don't remember who. And it probably doesn't matter who. Oops. Uh-oh, there it is. Okay. Let me play this. Hopefully the audio works. Nope, so far it doesn't.
Research says that while Gen Z is participating.
Bear with me, folks. Bear with me, folks. I got to stop one audio and start another. Just bear with me, okay? And the news that I'm going to share about a slight change of direction for the Firebrand podcast is related to exactly glitches like this. So just bear with me, okay?
Ages 18 to 30
okay, here we
said
go.
they 1 to 70 identified with a religion. But only 57% of young adults ages 18 to 30 said they do. Scott Thumma, director of the Hartford Institute for Religion Research, says that while Gen Z is participating in religion at higher levels than before, the manner in which they participate is different than previous generations.
Now pay attention.
They're not doing it like their parents or grandparents or the previous generational groups. They're also most likely to have increased their involvement in the last 5 years. They are the most likely to have come after never having attended or that they had fallen away and they're kind of returning back.
Caitlin Miller of West Springfield is one example of that return.
Check this out.
The 24-year-old grew up in the Catholic Church, but eventually drifted away from its traditional structure.
I had one friend at the time who was Christian, and she was following Christ for about a year. And so I was like, I don't know. I was questioning myself. I was like, what's the difference between being Christian and Catholic?
The COVID-19 pandemic pushed Miller to look inward and back toward her faith.
I was like, can I maybe go to a church service with you just to like see what it's like? And I went, and I don't know what it was. I can't pinpoint what this feeling was, but it was just like I felt seen.
I can pinpoint what that feeling was like. I did a video on it just recently. This child went to a church service with the Protestants, and she got a healthy dose of anti-Catholic propaganda and a healthy dose of sensationalism and spectacle. Okay? I'm sure she felt seen in sincere ways. I'm sure that she felt something that was real. I'm also confident that she felt something that was just make-believe and seemed real. This is a very common story that we're hearing. Young Catholics who break away from the faith and they go into religious life in the secular world, because secularism is a religion. So they go into religious life in the secular world and they find it lacking. They find it empty. They find that they're coming away from that with less than what they had going into it. Now they regroup and they redouble their efforts to find God wherever he may be found, right? So they start looking, generally, it's going to be in one or two directions. They're going back to a familiar path and reassessing, let's just say Catholicism, okay, the faith of their parents and grandparents, whatever. That's one path. And then they reassess, is this the path for me? Let me start going back to Mass again. Let me see how that fits. That's one path. The other path is a rejection of the faith of their upbringing, a rejection of the faith of their formation for whatever reason, because they're still rebellious or because they're suspicious of it or they've observed things that they didn't like in it, whatever. So they go to the next best thing, Protestantism or an evangelical faith or something that appeals to what they want out of secular life, but isn't secularism, which is basically fast and loose with doctrine. It's all about feel good and community, which, community is important. But community, which is important, it is a characteristic of the Christian faith. Community can sometimes be a poison, right? That's in that sweet drink. Let's just say orange juice. It's a poison in there. And community is the sweet drink. Community is the sweet drink that makes you forget that there's poison in there or makes you just not detect that there's poison in there. Doctrinal drift or philosophies or ideas that are contrary to what we find in Scripture. Stuff like that. Okay? So this is a story that we're hearing a lot of. There are also youth who are making it up as they go. Many, many, many youth are leaving permanently the Catholic faith and they are becoming Buddhist. Are you familiar with this? Are you aware of this? Buddhism is on the rise. You know what else on the rise? Paganism, neo-paganism. Young people exploring things like Wicca and even witchcraft. On rare occasion, you'll have a young person who goes into Islam, something like that, but that's really the minority. But it's interesting, too, the ones who are going into Islam, what are they searching for? They're searching for a religion with backbone, because the religion of, free thought, so-called free thought secularism, has no backbone, and they're looking for backbone. Put that one in your pocket because I am going back to that in a second. Okay, so this is what we're finding throughout the Christian world. And the people who wind up back in religion, they don't always wind up back into Catholicism, even if that's where they started. Now I have to get my notes back in front of me. Okay, let's talk about engagement patterns. Research from religious sociologists and demographic studies finds that younger generations usually engage in different ways, less with traditional indicators and more with alternative forms of spirituality or community. So this is not just T.J. Haynes saying this. Researchers are saying this as well. Folks, in a world where people are made to feel more isolated, they're going to really thirst for community. They're going to look for it, and when they find it, they're going to hold on to it. And once that happens, it's hard to pull them away from it. If they find community in some really, really radicalized Protestant faith, I mean like something really radicalized, a denomination that started in the 2000s or something like that, it's hard to pull them away from that because they feel very strongly that they've found what they've been looking for. Classically, historically, traditionally, it has always been harder to correct someone who is errant than it is to convert someone with no faith at all. It's easier to make a Catholic out of an atheist. It's easier to make a Christian out of a pagan than it is to bring a Christian who errs back into the center, back into the fold. And listen, I read that. When I first read that, I don't know, it was in the 90s at some point when I first read that. It was a book on church history. And that's where I first got into patristics, where that really first intrigued me, the church fathers and this and that. And one of the things that I read was that it was far easier to convert a non-believer than to correct a heretic or someone who's like grossly errant. Far easier. Fast forward, all of these years of experience in evangelization under my belt, I have also found that to be true. It is extraordinarily difficult to correct someone who has lost their course than it is to bring in a non-believer or a pagan or a secularist, whatever, someone who's agnostic. Very, very different experience. Okay, so that's what we have going in. On the other hand, we also have many young people, and I want to say this first. Let me finish the thought. Many young people who are looking for and finding Catholic traditionalism. I want to say this to some of the traditionalists who may be watching. It's a mistake to say traditionalism is good. Look at all the conservatives we have here. And I'm going to explain why. It's a mistake to say traditionalism is superior because the young people are searching for it. That's a mistake because the TLM communities are a concentration of a singular type of Catholic. The ordinary form communities, the ordinary old Catholic parishes, gets everybody, absolutely everybody. People fall into the ordinary form Mass because it's the ordinary form. It's ordinary. It's automatic. People just fall into it. If you want to go to Mass, that's generally the one you're going to go to 99% of the time. On the contrary, people search for the TLM. Okay, that's an intentional choice. I guess all choices are intentional. That's an intentional move, okay, to go to the TLM. So you're always going to find a concentration of that type of Catholic. To say, for instance, the traditional Latin Mass is better. Look, everybody's receiving communion on the tongue or on their knees or both. That doesn't count because the people who are going there are doing so intentionally. Okay? For instance, if I were to start attending a TLM, I am already receiving on my knees. I've been doing that for 25 years, receiving on my knees, right? That doesn't mean I'm going there because it's superior. It just means I do that and I'm going there to the traditional Latin Mass, okay? But it is true, and some studies have found this, that there are some young people, and I want to say this also, because the TLM has a concentration of a type, it's going to be easy to find that type because that's the concentration. Okay? People are always saying, look at all the young people at Mass, this and that. If I had time, I would do this research and get actual data in front of me, but I don't have this time. But I'm pretty confident this is true based on research that I have seen here and there. My suspicion is we actually get more young people in the ordinary form mass, but it's hard than they do in the TLM. But it's harder to spot because it's not a concentration of them. It's not a concentration. For instance, in a local parish where you have, say, 4 masses, you'll have young people across those 4 masses that outnumber the one TLM mass going on down the road, whatever. You understand? It's a concentration. So to say we have all of the good families, we have all of the good youth, that is not accurate. It's really not accurate. Even if I were to grant that, it's only accurate because you have a concentration of that type of Catholic there. Whereas in the ordinary form mass communities, we have everybody. Okay? All right. Sometimes I get on a tear here and I get out of breath, so you'll have to pardon me as I silence the microphone once in a while to get a good, healthy, hearty breath of fresh air. Okay, but that having been said, you do find a concentration. You do find people who go from nothing to the TLM. Why is that? That's going to take us into phase 2. What are they searching for? What are they finding? Why is that good? And why does the rest of the church need to take the hint? We'll get to that into phase 2. That brings us to the end of phase 1. Let's go, if this works. I think that's it. That's it. Let's go to the chat room. See who's saying what. Play some traveling music, Mr. DJ, and I thank you very much. Let's start with the Forge.fm headquarters. Sean Gardner says, I think it was Sean Gardner, I just lost it. Somebody said, I need a TJ Haynes t-shirt. Oh, God forbid, man. You know, I did have a run like that in my career where I had gotten pretty, I don't want to say famous, but I'll say popular. People, God, I'm not bragging as I say this. People would see me sometimes getting off of coming out of an airport or something, going to do a conference or something, and they would gasp and say, it's TJ Haynes. And part of me, let me tell you, I thought that was God descending on a cloud. Hang on a second. Wow. And part of me was horrified at that. And part of me was like, oh, yeah. Part of my, my ego loved it. And at that point, I said, I'm going to have to get out of this business. That's a true story. I'd gotten pretty famous, not famous, but very popular. And people back then would have asked for such a t-shirt. I need a TJ Haynes t-shirt. Thank you, Sean Gardner. You are too kind. Let's see who else is saying what. Hello to Alice, the critic, joining me there at the Forge.fm. YouTubers, I'm going to get to you in just a second. Ellis says, perhaps the t-shirt should read, I'm going to keep this one. Ellis said, perhaps the t-shirt should read, I'm going to keep this one short, but the shirt always comes one size too large. That is hilarious. Ellis and everybody, I have to tell you, whenever I edit a show and I start at the top where TJ Haynes says, I'm going to keep this one real, real short, I always think, and I'm looking at the timeline and it's like 2 hours, you know, and I always think eventually I'm going to be known for that. I'm going to be known for saying this is going to be short and it never is. Well, I guess we are there. We're there now. Even a Firebrand brief turns out to be 30, 45 minutes, which I guess is short compared to 2 hours. I guess that is brief. Christ in the Eucharist continues to save my life every day and sustain me, Sean Gardner says. Wow, that's an incredible witness. And hello to Michael joining me in the chat room. I see you there. And Sean says she just admitted she thinks worshiping God is getting attention. Oh, probably talking about the young woman in the video. She just admitted that she thinks worshiping God is getting attention herself. Folks, if I want to say this to those who are watching or listening who might fit this model where you're searching, right? And you're looking for some kind of feedback right? Like I go to a church, I want to feel God's presence, that sort of thing. I want you to pay real careful attention to me, okay? I'm your big brother. I will never lie to you, okay? I love you. I care about you. This advice is for you. God will sometimes give you what you're looking for in that feedback, in the Catholic experience. Sometimes he'll give it a lot of it to you, and then he's going to take it away because it's exceptional. Sometimes he'll give you that grace just to strengthen, and the saints have said this to death, to strengthen you, to encourage you, to motivate you, to reinforce this truth that God is there. But that feeling, that sensation will not last forever. And it can't last forever. Because if your faith is strung along by that sort of feedback, then it's not real. It is not real, my friends. Not only is it not real, but it will never, ever, ever grow. You will never become the saint he made you to be. So please do not look for that positive feedback. God will grant it sometimes. Sometimes he'll grant a lot of it. And then he'll start to take it away. And then through your life as a Catholic, he might give it to you in segments, right? Momentarily. Here's a little bit more and then stop. Here it is again, and then stop. And he may not give it to you at all after you're mature enough where you shouldn't need it anymore. I can remember having those sensations of peace and joy in the presence of God. Like, for instance, one such period that comes to mind was a particular Ash Wednesday. And I was like on fire for Lent that Ash Wednesday. And then after Ash Wednesday, it was 40 years of absolute darkness. Did I say years? It sure felt like it. 40 days of absolute darkness. And I was so frustrated. I even said this to my confessor. I don't understand. I was so motivated on Ash Wednesday, and I was explaining to him what I was feeling, and he said what I'm telling you. Sometimes God will do that, give you this abiding peace or whatever, and then pull it away like instantly. That's normal, he said. Sometimes that could be crushing. I'll tell you that. That was a very, very rough Lent, and that has happened to me in my Catholic life on occasion, more than once. More than once. Let's just put it there. Leave it at that. So please don't look for the sensation. Don't look for the feedback. Because if that is what your faith is based on, then that is what your faith is in. It's in the reward. It's not in the work of becoming a saint. It's in the reward, and it's not in the reward giver. Okay? He may found the Eucharist at the altar. Your assumption appears to be correct. The traditional Latin Mass, National Adult 18 to 39, survey by Father Donald Closter, found this in 2019. So Ellis the critic is saying, and Ellis is on top of stuff. Ellis is one of those guys where I almost don't even, I never fact check him, but I never feel like I have to, because the things that I've seen him say have always been so spot on. But he says, your assumption appears to be correct. The traditional Latin Mass, National Adult, is 18 to 39, survey by Father Donald Closter. So that's interesting. Let's go over to YouTube, find out what's being said in all these huge paragraphs. Let me scroll up just a little bit. Mountains of Vasilium, welcome back. And Oblate, welcome back to you, my friend. I haven't seen you in a little bit. God bless you, and thank you for joining me. All of you there on YouTube and on The Forge/Substack, thank you for joining me. I haven't watched many movies since. Speaking of the phenomenon, our TLM was packed on Rue. Was packed to Rue today. So his TLM was packed like sardines, he says. All ages, not just young folks. Authenticity. So you think, Oblate, you think people are looking for authenticity? Probably. In fact, not even probably. I would say yes. People yearn for authenticity, even if they don't know that consciously. But now the question is, what are we calling authentic? Right? So is your local TLM more authentic than what Justin Martyr experienced when he went to Mass? or is Justin Martyr's experience more authentic? What are we calling authentic? Just a thought experiment for you to have on your own. Not pushing back, but I agree, people are looking for authenticity. And just to preface phase 2, I will say they are looking for authenticity. They are finding it in the TLM. They might be finding it wrongly, but they are finding something that's true. Don't think of that as a criticism of the TLM. I'm going to massage that a little bit as we get into the next segment. Because they have nowhere else to go, the world is against them. Madek says they have nowhere else to go, the world is against them. There's probably truth to that. Not probably, there is truth to that. I'm saying probably too much today. Oblate says, I like what you're doing, TJ. I think it's very profound, and I do get what you're saying. Thank you, because I really want to be understood. I don't want people to interpret this as criticism, because it really, really isn't. There was a sketch on British TV, Mountains of Vasilium says, a society after nuclear war, and that society was Madonna's autobiography. So everyone... Okay, let me start from the top, because I think I see where this is going. There was a sketch on British TV, a society after nuclear war, and they survived, and that survived was Madonna's I guess something culturally that survived after the nuclear war was Madonna's autobiography. I guess that's what Mountains of Vasilium is saying. And so because that's what was informing the culture, everyone was a degenerate. They were horrified. Their kids rebelled and became Christian. Because I guess for them, the truth was what they found in Madonna's autobiography. Martin was correct on many fronts. Oblate is saying, it signals to me that Father Malachi Martin was correct on many fronts. I have to tell you, Oblate, I don't remember my research into Father Malachi Martin, but it's in my head someplace, and all it's doing right now is signaling my intuition. And I don't know where the signal is coming from, but the signal is this. Don't place your faith in Malachi Martin. Because I vaguely remember finding a lot of issues with Malachi Martin. Unless I'm misremembering, but this was a while ago, so I can't quite remember. Folks, in general, don't place your faith in Malachi Martin or in TJ Haynes. Because neither one of us matters. Okay? Neither one of us matters. Place your faith in God. Place your faith in Jesus Christ. Place your faith in the church, the gateway to truth, to Jesus, to heaven. And remember that it's a gateway, okay? Don't turn the church into an idol, okay? But place your faith in God, Jesus Christ, the church, and the saints. And that's it. Sorry. And the saints, and that's it. Because the saints are proven. They're tried, tested, and proven. You can place your faith in them. They're not magisterial, but they're very authoritative. Not just the things that they write or wrote or said, but the way they live their lives. Place your faith in that because they are a reflection of Jesus Christ on earth. That's why they're saints. That's why the church recognizes their heroic virtue, okay, the life of heroic virtue that they lived. And that's it. That is it. Listen, I'm a huge fan. If you're following me long enough, you know this. Huge fan of Fulton Sheen. I've read all of his books, many of them twice, a couple of them more than twice. I've seen a lot of his clips and stuff, and I've seen some full-length episodes of his show, but mostly my experience with Fulton Sheen is in his books, okay? I don't place my faith in Fulton Sheen. Maybe when there's an ST in front of his name, I will. If you told me today that Fulton Sheen got tied up in some kind of scandal or something, that wouldn't affect me at all. Okay, because as a cornerstone to my faith, Fulton Sheen is not there. He's not a saint. He's not Jesus Christ. He is not the church. He is not God. Okay, so don't place your faith in characters. One of the reasons why I started this apostolate anonymously, okay, I wouldn't show my face. I wasn't doing a podcast. You know, when I started this apostolate, it was just a blogging apostolate. And then I started podcasting, and then I finally did a face reveal, and then I was still not using anything of my name, right? That was back when I was identifying as the Catholic Adventurer. Some of you may remember that. Some of you who go back that far with me are going, oh my God, I forgot about that, right? One of the reasons behind that was because I didn't want to be another figure in the cult of Catholic personalities. I did not want that. TJ Haynes said, TJ Haynes said, TJ Haynes says, TJ Haynes says. I didn't want that. I did not want to be at the center. I wanted the truth to be at the center. I wanted Jesus Christ to be at the center. I wanted the church to be at the center. And I was just going to be the servant. I won't get into why I started using my name. It's not relevant for now. But I still don't want to be the next figure in the cult of Catholic personalities, which is a very real thing. The cult of Catholic personalities is a very real thing. So be careful of that. Don't place your faith in characters, even good ones. Okay, Fulton Sheen, great character, right? I don't place my faith in Fulton Sheen. When he has an ST in front of his name, that will change. But until then, he's just a priest. He's a tremendous theologian, communicator, all of those good things, yes, but he's a priest. That's who he is. Okay, that's how you should be. But yeah, Malachi Martin, intuitively, I'm sort of remembering I did not have a good opinion of some stuff that was floating around about Malachi Martin. I intuitively, I kind of remember some of the fact checking did not at all check out. I kind of remember that, but this is going back several years, so I can't quite remember it. Let's continue with some of the commentary on YouTube. I want trad for all the wrong reasons and almost ended up leaving the church altogether, Marek says. Nie dobrze. It was through God's merciful grace that he led me out of traditionalism to a lovely Novus Ordo parish where I feel at home. Marek, I had that very same experience, where the Lord said to you, "Ich tu domu," and you were like, okay, and then you wound up at a Novus Ordo church. I had that same experience for a while. I was, as I say, rolling deep and heavy with Sedivacantists, and I mean deep, and I mean heavy. And some things they were telling me, stop checking out, and it's a long story. I've gotten into it in past shows and in past articles and stuff. I'm not going to get into it now. But I had that same experience. So when I criticize radical traditionalism or even traditionalism, I'm offering that critique as someone who was inside of the error. I was inside of the error. And I know what some traditionalists are going to say. Well, I'm a traditionalist. I'm not a sedevacantist. That is true. But what you don't realize is many traditionalists make arguments that did not start in Catholic traditionalism. They started in Sedivacantism. They started there, and they migrated here, and they took root in Catholic traditionalism. That's why I'm always cautioning people about it. And I have the perspective of I rolled deep in that circle. I come from within the error, okay? How can return to traditionalism? How can return to traditionalism? They have no traditional wives, work, support from the parents who are probably divorced. Mark, I'm sorry, brother. I don't quite understand what you're saying there. So I'm not even going to try to address it because it's pretty packed. The question looks pretty packed, which is fine, but because I can't really understand what you're asking, I don't even want to try to answer it because I'm probably not going to address it adequately or correctly. Are they looking for God or friends? Exactly. Gen Z coming back to the Catholic Church probably have more genuine faith than the older generations who are culturally Catholic and only really had the outward sign of the faith, Mountains of Vasilium says. Thank you for that. That's a great comment. I got to fast forward a little bit here. It's easier to be a Protestant. Divorce, sinning, doesn't really matter. And therefore, it's easier to be a Protestant. Divorce, sinning, it doesn't really matter in their foolishness. Yeah, I agree. It is variable. Some of them are closer to the Catholic understanding of that, but most of them are exactly what you just said, which I don't understand how they can be so, Bible, 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 y'all, and then have such divergent doctrines and moral doctrines and social doctrines. I just don't understand it. Oblate says, I got a cool T-shirt with a picture of our Blessed Mother and a rosary. It says, call your mother. Oh, man, they stole my line. I did a show with that very title, Remember to Call Your Mother. I did it on Mother's Day, and it was a show about the rosary. Darn, somebody stole my line. Oh, well. Okay. Wow, Madek says, this happens to me all the time. It's frustrating and causes me to get angry at God. 1 day of peace, 3 weeks of utter darkness and emptiness. And then Mark, following that comment, says his faith has grown in his suffering. Hey, Liz Sutcliffe, God bless you, lady. Oh, boy, it's so old school seeing you in the chat room there, lady. Yeah, sometimes, I want to touch on this. Sometimes he gets angry at God, he says, because it's like 1 day of peace and then 3 weeks of utter darkness. My brother, if you're getting 3 weeks of utter darkness, I envy you. I envy you. I would love to just have 3 weeks of total darkness. I'm not even laughing. I would love to have just 3 weeks of total darkness. Angry at God. Let me speak to that a little bit. I'm angry at God most of the time. Did you know that? I'm angry at God most of the time. I can't even get into all the reasons why. But I soldier on because where will we go, Lord? You have the words of everlasting life. I soldier on because my anger at God is a me issue, and I know that in my head. But in my heart, I blame him. That's true. I soldier on because you're never going to find the road to home if you're just sitting still. So I soldier on knowing that I may get more lost because you're moving, right? If you ever get lost, stay in one place, we'll find you. Don't keep walking because you might get more lost, right? I soldier on because the only way to be found is to keep moving, with the understanding that means I could also get more lost. But I have faith that I won't get more lost. I have faith that I'm going to find a road that isn't the road to home, but it's a road that's going to lead me to the road to home. This road that is confusing, this road that is strife, this road that is discontent, this road that will bring a suffering that the Lord needs me to go through. And I get mad at him for that too. But what else can you do? You can't find the road to home if you're sitting still, so you have to keep moving. And moving means you're still alive. And being alive invites threats. What else can you do? Sit still and die? Or sit still and be as if you are dead? How are you going to find the road to home? The road to home is the road to... So when I say the road to home, I'm not necessarily talking about the road to heaven, but it is that. I'm talking about the road where now you know you're on the right path. You see the destination. You're not there yet. It's far away, but you see it. And you're okay with being very far away from your destination. You see it way out there in the distance, but you're okay with that because you know at least you're on the road. And every step you walk, you're closer than you were a moment ago. When I was in the seminary, life is so weird. When I was in the seminary, I hated that it was going to take all these years to become a priest because I thought I was ready now, you know? And what kept me going in that awful experience, what kept me going was every day I would wake up and say, I'm a day closer to ordination. I'm a day closer to ordination. And that gave me, that helped me to keep going, you know? But that comes to bear here. Finding the road to home is not the destination, but it's the surety that the destination is in your scope. Without that, you're lost, you're afraid, you're disoriented. It's raining, sometimes it's acid rain. Wild animals are attacking you. Birds are pecking at your head when you're trying to get some sleep, and so on. And it's just ugly and harsh, and all of it makes me mad at God. I look at the path behind me, everything that I've been through, everything that I've endured, everything that God allowed. And I look at that, and in my heart, sometimes I look up to heaven and I do this. Not my body, but in my heart, that's something that I feel, looking up to heaven and shaking my fist. Why? Why? But I know that's not fruitful, so I put it in another room and I lock the door. But sometimes I hear that part of me pounding on the door. What's the alternative? The alternative is to stay in place, live a lie, a secular life without the pursuit of God. A secular life without the grace of the Mass, whether or not you feel it, is irrelevant. That's the alternative, is a life that is death and still having death to look forward to. I don't mean that in a good way. I don't mean looking forward to it like, finally I can die. I mean it in a negative way. It's living a life that is living a life of death and still having death in your scope, in your future. Death to look forward to, but not looking forward to it. That's the alternative. And before I get into phase 2, this last little bit of advice or wisdom I'll share. We always want to find God, right? Search for him while he may be found, the scripture says. We always want to find him. And we feel so lacking and without when we fail to find him. We search and we do not find. We hear him, but we don't know where his voice is coming from. The night is dark, and we can't see Jesus. We can't see his mother. But you have to remember what you do have. And this is it. I don't have God. I don't have him in sight. I don't have him in view. I barely hear his voice, or I don't hear his voice at all. I have nothing. Lord, I have nothing. You've left me with nothing. You know what he's left you with? The search. The searching. The desire to seek and the desire to find. Do you know that's a grace? You don't deserve that. That's a grace. The searching is a grace. The desire to find is a grace. And in the searching where you feel like you're coming up empty, you are learning things along the way that you wouldn't have learned had you not been searching. You are learning things along the way that you would never have learned had you not been searching. That's a grace, and it's a gift. So condition yourself to have that gravel in your guts where the night is dark, the weather is shit, the path is rocky, the animals are everywhere, and you learn to love it. You learn to love it for the sake of the adventure. You learn to love the seeking, not for the sake of the finding, but for the sake of the discovery along the way. Let's get into phase 2, darling. You're welcome, Marek. Phase 2, why are people looking for traditionalism? Let's talk about it. Traditionalism on the rise, baby. Lots of people going into traditionalism. The traditional Latin Mass is getting very much more popular. I remember when I was rolling with the SETIs, I was a big component of the traditional Latin Mass. Today, not so much. But the reason I bring it up is that used to be a rare find, a traditional Latin Mass. Now, it's not quite so rare, right? Traditionalism is on the rise. People are seeking and looking for it. Let's talk about why. What's going on in traditionalism, and what's the hint that the church should start to take? First, let me open this segment this way. I very strongly advise you to stay away from traditionalism. Trads, please don't be insulted, because I say this with love for you, okay? And I know many people have good intentions for getting into traditionalism. I get that. But I can tell you from experience, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people don't. You know, it's funny. I was talking to a priest friend of mine, a friend from way back. It's funny because he actually helped me out of sedevacantism. He helped me through a tragedy or two, a spiritual tragedy or two. And he would identify himself as a traditionalist to this day. When I tell him some of the things that I know about traditionalism, he's very shocked to hear it. Traditionalists aren't like that. Father, they absolutely are. I know this. I minister to these folks. Well, I minister to them too, but they hide that from you. You're another traditionalist. So they're not going to show their real selves to you. That only comes out when those pressure points are pushed, and you don't push them because you don't need to. As an evangelizer, there are some things that I have to do, right? I can never be a traditionalist because as an evangelizer, I have a duty to cast a wide and broad net. I can never give the appearance of taking sides, ever. I do not have that right. I have to speak with the church's voice. I do not have a right to speak with T.J. Haynes' voice. You understand, I obviously do speak with my voice. I have my own take and spin on things, of course. But if the church says, for instance, if the church says receiving communion in the hand is not wrong, I do not have the freedom to say, yes, it is. I don't have that freedom as an evangelizer. I have to speak with the church's voice. Okay? So, as an evangelizer, I have to take a neutral, all-inclusive, and as much as possible, pure position on everything. I do not hide my biases. You all know me, right? But I have, as much as possible, I have to take a balanced and pure position on everything. That is my duty, right? If I'm going to be an evangelizer, that is my duty. I always have to give the church the benefit of the doubt. I always have to try to... Anyway, you get the idea. So he doesn't see the things that I see, and I think most traditionalists don't see the things that I see. And what I see is many, many, many traditionalists are really altar Catholics. They're in a subculture of the Catholic faith. And this is why I tell people just stay away from it, because it could lead you into big trouble, spiritually, ecclesially, I guess you might say. For instance, the SSPX. Or another example I can throw out there, Archbishop Vigano, or Vigano, however you pronounce that name. Another example who's on the up and up and all over my radar is Bishop Athanasius Snyder. Totally on my radar. I'm starting to suspect that if the SSPX get excommunicated, he is going to apostatize, as Vigano did. That's my suspicion. I'm like 50-50 on it. I'm not like real confident, but that's my suspicion. You wind up on a slippery slope. Sorry about that pause. I don't know what the hell is going on in the skies above me. Maybe it's the end of the world. I don't know. Well, this would be a good time to bring an end to it all on the Feast of Corpus Christi. Anyway, but I know that there are Catholics who go to traditionalism for good and legitimate and valid reasons. It's not to diminish the church or diminish the Mass. It's the Mass that they prefer for honest, sincere reasons. Got it. And I believe it. I would still recommend you not do that, but your mileage may vary. But why are people going to traditionalism? Why is that becoming more and more popular. I've said this for a while. The main thing is the TLM and the communities that surround it or associate with it is very clear signaling. Whereas in the I wouldn't say proper church, but in the ordinary church, the signaling is often not clear. It's a little bit confusing, a little bit contradictory at times. It's a little bit disorienting sometimes. Sorry, I just had to take a piece of gum out of my mouth. It was annoying me. Okay. But the signaling in the TLM is very clear, and people need that, some more than others. I don't really need that, but I'll tell you, I would sure like it. The Pope, whether it's Leo or Francis, any of them, or a cardinal or a bishop or a parish priest, can say pretty much anything as long as it's orthodox, and I'll get it. I will get it. But boy, I would like to not have to do the work of trying to decode it, which sometimes you do. And there are some necessary reasons for that. It's not fear or anything like that. In the way the world is today, you sometimes have to have this signaling that needs a little decoding. I'm not going to get into that now because even as I start to say it, I feel like I'm giving the wrong idea. So let me just skip that. But anyway, some people need that clear signaling more than others. But I think most ordinary Catholics pretty much need it. And they often, not always, but often don't find it in the proper, so-called proper Catholic Church. The signaling is clear in traditionalism. It's not so clear in the ordinary Catholic Church. And people need that. And that's legitimate. Also, another reason is culture. People are looking for culture. Culture, you've heard me say this a million times. Culture is important. Culture is a teacher. Culture builds identity. Identity tells us who we are, where we're going, where we're meant to be. You take away culture, you starve identity. You starve identity, you wind up with people with identity crisis. People with identity crisis attempt to make it up on their own. And 99% of the time, they will fail. They will fail. So people are going to traditionalism because it is loaded with culture. You don't have to look too hard. It is all over the place in traditionalism. But let's talk about some specific things that people are going to traditionalism for, which I cannot fault them no matter what. I just cannot fault them. Let's do it from this platform. Some things that really irritate me in the ordinary form Mass. First of all, folks, I know some traditionalists, I don't know if this is like intrinsic to all traditionalism or what, but every traditionalist I have known, and it's a lot of them, it's an awful lot of them, a hell of a lot of them, have taken issue with the time of peace at Mass. Folks, peacetime, the time of peace at Mass, was traditionally in the early liturgies. But I think it was done at the beginning of Mass. I think it was done at the beginning, but it was in the early liturgies. Let me pause this a second. It was in the early liturgies. It's very Catholic. I understand a lot of traditionalists take issue with that, but it's just the truth. It's very Catholic, okay? But something that irritates me, and it irritates traditionalists, and I really can't blame them, is people feel like they have to say peace be with you to everybody in the freaking church. Peace be with you, peace be with you, left to the right, behind me, across the field over there at the back of the pews, peace be with you. Hey, oh, hey, peace be with you. It's just a little ridiculous. The peace, the sign of peace is symbolic, okay? By saying peace be with you to a couple of people, you are saying it to everybody. You don't have to wave and shake hands with everybody. Another thing that irritates me is this. Can we please stop doing this at Mass? Peace be with you. Peace be with you. Peace be with you. Hey, over there. Peace be with you. Can we please stop doing that? Are we hippies? Please stop holding up the peace sign. It's very hippie. It's very pagan. I'm not going to get into it, but yes, it is very pagan. And it's very stupid. Please stop doing it. If you, for instance, if you want to say peace be with you to someone to your left or right, but you don't want to shake their hand, what I do, you do what you want. What I do is I just elevate my hand and I say, peace be with you. And I touch my heart. Peace be with you. And that's it. When I was younger, because I'm still young, when I was younger, we were taught, you say peace be with you to the person on your left, the person on your right, and that's it. Not to the person behind, in front, across. Shake hands with the person on the left, person on the right, say peace be with you to each of them, and that's it. That's how we were taught. But this whole peacetime bonanza really gets under my skin. It's like, folks, get on with it. Okay, peace be with you. Okay. All right. Can we now move forward? I'm a little annoyed every time, the Agnus Dei starts and people are still piecing. Agnus Dei, qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis. Oh my God. That irritates me. Another thing that irritates me about the ordinary form Mass, and I mean no disrespect to those of you who are involved in this, but Eucharistic ministers. I'm sorry. You will never, ever, ever, ever convince me that Eucharistic ministers make any sense. When I was a little boy, the Masses were packed. Okay, one parish that we went to had 3 Masses. Another one, which was my home parish, had 4. Every Mass you went to was packed. And these are old school Brooklyn parishes. They're like cathedrals. Okay? Packed. Packed. Home parish, 4 Masses, packed. Interestingly, I was at my home parish where I grew up. I was there, 6, 7 years ago. At, I think it was like the 10th, it was at the Mass that was usually the most populated. And there was like nobody there. I couldn't believe my eyes. I just could not believe my eyes. Maybe 50, 60 people. I couldn't believe it. That Mass used to be packed front to back. If you got there on time, hell, if you got there even a couple of minutes early, you were standing up because there were no seats left. Huge church too. Okay? So, with all these people at Mass, do you know what happened at communion time? The celebrant would administer communion, and whatever other priest was assigned there, right? So you have a pastor and a parochial vicar. The parochial vicar would come out, or the other priest, because maybe the celebrant was the parochial vicar. The other priest would come out, and you'd have 2 priests administering Holy Communion. That's it. That's it. And this was after Vatican II, so they could have used Eucharistic ministers. All of these packed Masses, you never, ever saw a Eucharistic minister. And you know what? This might surprise you. Nobody died. Nobody died of boredom or of impatience. Nobody died from there being only 2 priests to give out communion. Nobody died. It might shock you, but nobody died. So you will never, except maybe at a Vatican Mass or something, okay. All right, because then you got thousands of people, whatever. Okay, Eucharistic ministers, fine. Beyond that, you will never convince me that Eucharistic ministers are important. With all due respect to those of you who may be Eucharistic ministers, this is not a criticism of you. There can be a legitimate use for Eucharistic ministers in some circumstances. What I'm saying is they are massively overused. And my personal feeling is, what are we saying about the Eucharist when it starts to look a little bit like a circus act? Eucharistic ministers are great. I mean, I don't go to communion to a Eucharistic minister because I receive on the knees and on my tongue, and I really don't want no drama. I don't want to get into an argument with a Eucharistic minister who won't give me communion because I'm kneeling down, or a Eucharistic minister because there was a time, I always received on the tongue, but there was a time when I wasn't kneeling. I hadn't gotten there yet, and then I was kneeling, and anyway. So I remember one time, this was when I was still living in my home parish where I grew up. I went up to a Eucharistic minister. It was a big Mass. I think it was like a feast day or something, like Immaculate Conception, because I remember it was nighttime. And I was at Mass and it was packed, so it had to have been a feast day. Go up to the Eucharistic minister. I'm standing up, receiving on my tongue. I'm standing there with my tongue out. And the Eucharistic minister is still holding the host down at my hands, which are folded at my hips. It's very obvious I'm receiving on my tongue. I don't need this freaking drama. especially now over the past 25 years, receiving on my knees and on my tongue, I do not need the drama. So I do whatever I can do without disrupting the Mass or the flow of things. I try very hard to do whatever I can do, but I'm receiving from the priest. I'm going to pre-calculate. You don't have to. I'm just saying this is what I do. The point is, let me not get into all that. The point is, Eucharistic ministers are overused. I don't like them. God bless you if you're a Eucharistic minister. They can be useful. They can be important in some circumstances, but they are overused. That irritates me. The holding hands out during the Our Father. Why are we doing that? And why isn't anyone correcting anybody? There is nothing in the general instruction of the Roman Missal that says the people in the pews cannot elevate their hands. There isn't anything that says they have to fold their hands either. But what we do have is the faithful should not be mimicking the actions proper to the celebrant. This is an action proper to the celebrant. What we also have is that deacons during the Our Father should fold their hands. Well, my friends, if deacons have to fold their hands, why do the faithful think they don't have to fold their hands, that they can hold their hands out like this and say, "Our"? And then it gets really ridiculous because it doesn't just stop at orans. It becomes like, I don't know, like a Mayan ritual where people are, their hands outstretched looking up at the ceiling, and it becomes performative. That irritates me. Peace be with you and with your spirit. Why are we throwing peace at the priest? The peace of the Lord be with you and with your spirit. Why are we doing that? I mean, the only thing missing is a clap and a spin. Peace be with you and with your spirit. That's the only thing missing is a clap and a spin. There are things in the Novus Ordo Mass that, in my opinion, are objectively ridiculous. But we have to let them continue because to correct, first of all, the faithful are going to do whatever the faithful want to do. You can have the pastor, you can have a bishop say, please don't extend your hands during the Our Father, and here is why. There's many of them, most of them maybe, will still extend their hands during the Our Father. What will you have achieved? You will have pissed off a lot of people in the parish. Maybe that's a good thing, some of you are thinking. But maybe it's not, right? Same thing with various other things that are irritating. The reason why they're allowed to continue is because there's no authority for making them stop. I would love to force everybody, at least first communicants, right, when they're taught to receive communion, I would love to say you can only receive on the tongue. But you can't, because the church doesn't say that. And so you cannot say that. I make my children receive on the tongue. But you see what I'm saying? There's no authority to say that. Really, that authority doesn't exist in the TLM either, because the TLM is still the Catholic Church. But again, people of a certain type are choosing to attend the TLM. Usually they receive communion on their tongue anyway. Or if you attend a TLM parish, which I have had this, where a parish they will give you communion in your hands, but it's discouraged. And there's a kneeler there, and you pretty much have to kneel and receive on your tongue, which I was already doing, so I didn't care about that. But I thought it was interesting where they I wouldn't say they force it, but it's very, very, very strongly encouraged. I kind of dig that. But the point is, most of the people going there are already pre-configured for that. In an ordinary Catholic parish, that is hard to press. It's very hard to press. There are a few other things that irritate me at the Novus Ordo, at the ordinary form Mass, but there are things that irritate me at the traditional Latin Mass too. I'm not going to get into that because it's irrelevant. But to think that at the TLM you've arrived at Shangri-La, the Shangri-La of the Catholic experience. Oh God, is that not true? Some of the most vicious Catholics, by far, that I have ever met, TLM Catholics, self-identified TLM Catholics, the most vicious Catholics who are like, ooh, I don't want to be around you. Ooh, I'm sure not inviting you to a barbecue. I would rather invite my atheist friend than to invite you. TLM Catholics, across the board. Are there some saints to be in the TLM communities? I'm sure. But I'll tell you, I've met many saints to be in the Novus Ordo, in the ordinary form Mass. So if you think you found Shangri-La at the TLM, I guarantee you have not. It's just a different set of problems. Okay? Better, worse? I'm not making that argument. I'm just saying they have problems there too in those communities. So why do people seek them out? Somebody in the chat room earlier, I think it might have been Oblate who said it, was talking about authenticity. We are wired to look for authenticity. And they seek it out in the TLM, and because of the clear signaling and the richness of the culture there, they find it. They find it so richly that they don't realize that the negatives of separating themselves from the rest of the church are actually destructive, highly, highly destructive. I say it from experience, highly destructive. They don't realize it because what they're getting sort of, they feel cancels it out, or they don't even detect it because they're overwhelmed by the objective goods that you will find at a TLM. Now, you can find culture at a Novus Ordo Mass, some more than others. But I got to tell you, even at a good parish, it's spread a little bit thin. I know some very good parishes with very old school. They're not old priests, but they are old school priests. Anywhere they can lace or weave in traditional things, like a little chant here and there, some incense here and there, stuff like that, traditional things. Any opportunity where they can do that, they do it in the liturgy. But it's still spread, the culture is still spread pretty thin. The signaling is excellent in these parishes that I have in mind. The celebration of the Mass does not look like it's being phoned in. The celebrants look like they take it seriously. The consecration is done beautifully. All of that. You would never, if you're a traditionalist, you would never take issue with how those guys' Masses are being celebrated. I don't mean because they're illicit. I mean because they're done extraordinarily well. The signaling in the homily, very, very good. But still, the culture there can be a little bit thin. A little bit thin. It's present. It's unmistakably present. But even there, it can be a little bit thin. I think the church could learn a few lessons from Eastern Orthodoxy and from traditionalism. It's not, my opinion, it's not enough that we say, for instance, if you've ever been to a Novus Ordo Mass, strictly of the design of Vatican II, many of you, if you were to go there, you would think you're looking at a TLM, but it is not. It's the Novus Ordo. But it's in, they do the stuff in Latin. It's ad orientem. It's that super long Eucharistic prayer, which I'm okay with that it's long. I like that Eucharistic prayer. If you don't know the differences between the various forms of the liturgy, you would think you're looking at a TLM, but it's the Novus Ordo. Okay? It's not enough, in my opinion, to say, well, the Novus Ordo Mass can be loaded with culture, but we leave that option to the pastors and to the celebrants and to national conferences of bishops. I don't think that's good enough. It's true, but I don't think that's good enough. Because most conferences or bishops or celebrants, they're going to go to lowest common denominator. What is the simplest to execute? What is the easiest to maintain? That's not bad. That's actually good leadership. Because the Roman Rite is supposed to be simple. Okay, that's something characteristic of the Roman Rite, is the simplicity. It's not laziness. That's just a characteristic of the Roman Rite. So what's going to be simple, clean, beautiful, easy to repeat? Okay, if you have, in one region, if you have, let's say, 5 parishes, and each of them has 2 priests, what can we do that no matter which of those parishes you go to, no matter which mass amongst those parishes, no matter which celebrant, the liturgy will look identical. Every week, forever. That's why you have the Novus Ordo that we have. Okay, I still feel nourished by the Mass. I don't need all this culture and signaling. I don't need it. But a lot of people do. I don't think it's enough to say, well, it can be richer in culture. I don't think it's enough to say that. I think we have to start by requirement, build that back, or not build it back into the liturgy because it's technically still built into the liturgy. I think we have to start pushing to bring these optional things back into the Mass as a norm instead of an option. Because when you put together all of these things, all these options that can be simple and welcoming, inviting, all this stuff, and traditionally, I have to tell you, a lot of you think that the Novus Ordo is a Protestantized Mass, and I'm saying this friendly. I'm not saying this. This is just how I talk, okay? This is not me being angry at you. But when you say it's a Protestantized Mass, I want you to know it's a very stupid thing to say because it is in no way a Protestantized Mass. If you doubt me, ask the Protestants what they think of the Mass. They're horrified by what they see. But I kind of lost my train of thought there. But the point I'm trying to make is it's not enough to just, because when you put all of these options together, where they all become the simpler option, the option that can be executed regularly, reliably, what you have is too much simplicity. Now, imagine you're a young person seeing all of this simplicity, and it looks, in some ways, only marginally different from what they see in the world. If you know what you're looking at, it looks very different from what you're seeing in the world. But imagine young people growing up with that, where it only looks marginally different from what they're seeing in the world. Now take them to a TLM. Which one looks like it stands in defiance against the rest of the world? More often than not, it won't be the Novus Ordo, not in its current configuration. And I say that as someone who exclusively attends a Novus Ordo. If there were a TLM parish right next door, I wouldn't go to Mass there unless that was the more convenient Mass to go to on that Sunday. I'm not anti-TLM, but I really don't need it. And in a lot of ways, the TLMs I've attended, I didn't prefer them. I really didn't. So I'm not anti-Novus Ordo, obviously. And this is not absolutizing the diagnosis. What I'm saying is some things that you hear from traditionalists are overblown, but they are based on a truth. And the truth is, I think the Catholic experience needs to be welcoming, needs to be open to all, because it always has been. And so it should appear that way. But it really has to look like it stands in defiance against the secular experience. It really, and listen, I just think that's where people are, that people are so far from truth. They need the signaling to be that strong. They need the culture to be that rich. Okay? And I think people need the Mass to look like this is something otherworldly. I do not need that. I really don't need that. But I'm not every other Catholic. And I think a lot of Catholics, especially younger Catholics, really, really need to see that. In closing to that point, I'll give this one analogy. This is a new thing that I'm seeing everywhere. Churches are replacing their old, expensive to run light bulbs with LED lights. And the LED lights are daylight balanced. You would call them white, right? Instead of amber. So now, with these old churches filled with these daylight balanced LED lights, well, they're cheaper to run, but now the church just looks like a cafeteria with holy things in it. It looks like total shit. It does not look somber. It does not look, it doesn't look like it's a place filled with, it doesn't look like a holy space that way. First, because the churches weren't designed to be lit like that. And second, because daylight balanced light, basically it activates the mind. It's physiological. It activates the mind, right? The eyes see that color of light and it tells the brain, it's daytime, it's time to be awake and alert. Whereas amber lighting, the traditional color of lights and lamps that we always had, and the color of the lighting that you used to see in churches, or candlelight is amber lighting, that has an effect on the mind that tells it to relax, ease down, focus. It tends to produce an interior atmosphere of interior reverence, reflection, stillness. I'm not saying it's going to turn it on and off interiorly with the change of a light bulb, but it does. This is science. This is not theology. It's not. This is science. Okay, amber lighting has that effect on the human brain. It tells the brain, shh. So not only is all this damn LED lighting freaking ugly, it's just ugly. Now churches look like cafeterias with religious things in it. They look like gymnasium with holy things in it. Ugly. Not only is it objectively ugly, it's actually producing an effect contrary to the one we want produced for someone to be able to receive what's in the Mass. But they're cheaper to run. Folks, let's get serious. If the lights are expensive to run, take up another collection. You'll be okay. I offer that analogy for this, okay? Just as your lighting sets the atmosphere for an interior quiet, the way the Catholic experience is configured, supported, advanced, on display, signals to the person, where does this organization stand in the world? Is it incrementally different? Is it basically the secular world, but with holy things going on there? Or is it something that came down from heaven and planted its flag in the earth? The Mass that I grew up with was a Novus Ordo Mass, but it looked like it looked like it came down from heaven and planted its flag in the earth. Because the signaling, even though it was exactly the Novus Ordo we have today, right, like this very day, the signaling was super strong. They were still doing, even if they were saying English, they were chanting English. Okay, they were singing the words and the prayers. There was incense, there was real candles, and so on. The signaling was very strong, the culture was very strong, and it was a Novus Ordo Mass. And that sucker looked like it came down from heaven and planted its flag in the earth. And I think that's what the Mass ought to look like, not because it makes it more reverent or more efficacious, but I think the faithful, the ordinary faithful, really need that, especially the youth. They really need that. Not all of them do, but many of them do. And I think without that hook that people need, some people, what you're going to find is they're going to march over to traditionalism. And traditionalism today is orthodox, but I'll tell you, in my experience, in my life, to this day, I know personally know a big handful of Sedevacantists. Not from my run-in with Sedevacantism. You know how I know these Sedevacantists? They used to be traditionalists. About 7 or 8 of them. And one of them absolutely shocked me. That he went more and more and more and more traditionalist, and today he's a Sedevacantist. That is what traditionalism is ordered toward. Because traditionalism is an easy sell, because it's loaded with good things. But because it's loaded with good things, the devil is there also, moving people along. This traditional Mass isn't traditional enough. It should be more traditional. Now it's a little bit more traditional, but still not traditional enough. By the way, how crazy is Vatican II? I don't even need to make this case, folks. I already know this is true. And many of you, unless you're real stupid, all of you know that this is true. How many traditionalists do you know in the public sphere who are now Sedevacantists? Think real hard. I'm sure you can come up with at least 3. You all know this to be true. Somebody in the chat room just named one. I won't name that person's name on the air because they don't deserve my airtime. But yes, Marek, that's one of the names I'm thinking of. And there are two others. Four. There are four others. Yeah. There's a total of four, so there are three others. Three others who all of you know. One of those three you may not realize is setting a contest. But it's not really a secret, but it's quietly said. But anyway, so that's going to, so that wraps up the show, but I do want to talk to you about some adjustments in what I'm doing here at Firebranded, okay? That the only ones who are going to give a damn about that are the people who like following my work. I wanted to do the show proper so that the people who are not familiar with me didn't have to listen to me yammering about that. So here's the situation. Ooh, mysterious. What's the situation, T? What are you about to tell us? It's really not that heavy. So, two things, and I'm going to try and keep this like inside of 5 minutes, okay? And then now my mind goes back to Ellis saying, I'm going to keep this one short, and the shirt is 2 sizes too big. First, let's talk about the broadcast. The broadcast is really weighing heavy on me. I enjoy doing them, but I don't like that they've become like... The live broadcasts are hard to do. Okay, every show opens with stress. You just don't see it. All right, even this one did. Everyone opens with stress, something that isn't working right or things that I need to... Or let's just say everything is working right, but there are like 50 things I need to line up, right, to do this show. Stuff like that. So by the time I open the show, I'm already kind of stressed, okay, and a little bit brain tired. But I do enjoy doing these lives and being present with you and being present for you. But I'm just not having fun doing the show, to be real straight with you. So what I'm thinking of doing is something like this. What I think I'm going to do when I go live is I'm always going to make that a Firebrand brief. I'm going to keep it brief, casual, interact a lot with the audience. And I'm going to have a topic I'm going to talk about. You've seen the Firebrand briefs, not so brief, but you've seen them. There's always a topic, right? Not super structured, but it's not random, okay? Or I might do a Q&A. I'll have like a topic I'm going to talk about, and I'll make it a Q&A, and then whatever happens in the show happens. And then once a week or once every 2 weeks, I do a real episode of Firebranded, but on demand. I record it, produce it, edit it, release it. Okay? I'm also flirting with the idea of doing the first half of that, like doing a regular or every week or every 2 weeks, coming on here doing a Firebrand brief, similar to what I've been doing all this time, but doing something more frequently, audio only, released on my website. Firebranded.fm. Okay? I'm pretty sure that's the direction I'm going because these have really become kind of a cross. I do enjoy doing them for some specific reasons, and I really hate doing them for some specific reasons. So this is something that I'm going to do is kind of break it up. Okay, do something a little bit more casual live and a little bit more polished on demand. If you're not already doing so, sign up for free at firebranded.fm. And either one of those directions I go in, you're going to be notified about it. If I start doing regular shows, but just release them on my website, firebranded.fm, and just do once a week or once every 2 weeks, I do something kind of casual on a live stream, whatever the case, you're going to know about it. If I do something exclusively on the website, you're going to know about it because you're going to be subscribed to the website. Okay? So this is not me pulling away from doing a show. It's just me pulling away from how I do it because a lot of you might not realize this, but Firebranded is not just a broadcast. I also do articles. I also do articles on theforge.fm. And all of this stuff is stuff that I have inside of me and want to express, but I have to find a way that I can do it more. I have to find a way that I can do it where it's not killing me. Okay? So what is this going to change for you effectively? Probably very little. Worst case scenario, instead of seeing my fat, ugly face once a week, you're going to see it every 2 weeks. Worst case scenario, okay? It'll be more casual, stuff like that. I don't think you guys care about that, right? Because even a less casual show you enjoy, right? So effectively, very little, if anything, will change for you. But I do want to do like stuff that's easier to execute. If I do a video episode that's not a live stream, I do it on demand. I would rather do it on demand and then upload it and whatever. I still have in my heart this desire to do this, like do a podcast frequently through the week instead of just once a week, but doing it simple. Not simple, but shorter, you know? And because if I do that and it's audio only, it's also going to be a lot easier to produce and so on. So that's the direction I'm going in. Sign up for a free account at firebranded.fm and you're going to be in the know and you're not going to miss anything. I want to be clear. I will still be live streaming at least every 2 weeks. I will still be live streaming at least every 2 weeks. Maybe every week, but we're going to keep it very casual. Might be a Q&A, a Firebrand brief, whatever. Okay? So for you, nothing much is changing. The other thing, I apologize. The other thing that, the other direction I'm going in is right now, 90% of what I produce at theforge.fm or at firebranded.fm is free. I'm going to start changing that a little bit. I just looked at an article that I did at The Forge. I think it was on the Roman Rite. It was a very big, very substantial, very substantial article on the Roman Rite. And I cross-posted it manually, you know, copy, pasting, reconfiguring the graphics and stuff over to theforge.fm. And I'm like, holy crap. I did that for free? I mean, it is a really, really excellent piece of work. And I was in such a rush to get it finished, to edit it, to fact check it, and to publish it. I didn't even step away from it for a second to look at the full I mean, obviously I proofread it and everything once after I published it, but I just realized I'm doing a lot of stuff for free that I really shouldn't be doing all this stuff for free. So check it out. Right now at firebranded.fm, you can sign up for a free account. What I'm going to do there is I'm going to do one piece of exclusive commentary just for the free subscribers. Okay? You sign up for free. You get the ordinary stuff that everybody else gets, but then you get exclusive access to one piece of commentary or something every week for free. But I'm going to start ratcheting up what I make available for paying members. Okay? Right now, I do things like, when I don't do this every time, but I'll do like an after show, or I'll release an old podcast that I've taken off the internet. I'll release an old podcast. I call it From the Vault, to paying subscribers. Stuff like that. I do like a couple of extra little things. I'm going to start doing more of those. Like, for instance, The Fathers Know Best. I work really hard on those damn things. I think those are worth paying for. So The Fathers Know Best is going to be... I don't do this every time, but I'll do... The Fathers Know Best is going to be only for paying members, stuff like that. I would encourage you to please consider spending $5 a month, either at Firebranded.fm or theforge.fm, because I'm going to be providing more stuff just for paying members. But for free subscribers, you're still going to get one exclusive piece of commentary, or like a personal note, stuff that as I say, you know, inner circle stuff that I want to write about or talk about or share, but only with people who are really into my work. Free subscribe, people who are signing up to be members of the site, right? That's my inner circle. I still want to do at least one thing every week for the inner circle, but a lot of the stuff I've been producing over the past, God knows how long, I'm going to start making that available only to paid members. Now, there's a paid tier on firebranded.fm and a paid tier at theforge.fm. Which one should you sign up for? really either one, because the paid content on both of those sites is pretty much going to be the same. It's pretty much going to be the same. Either one you sign up for, you're going to get the same content. But here's what's a little different about Firebranded. Firebranded is not on Substack, so I have a little bit more freedom with various things I can do in posts, various things I can do in the paid tiers. So sometimes there's going to be a little bit more stuff that I can provide on firebranded.fm because it's not on Substack. Okay? So the two plans, the two sites, the paid tiers on both sites will be near identical, but firebranded.fm, there might be a couple of things here and there that I publish there that I don't publish to firebrand.fm. One or two things a month, maybe. Okay, again, the two sites are going to be near identical for the paid tiers. Okay? It's $5 a month, folks. As I always say, it's not sending me to Maui. It's helping me to pay some of the bills associated with producing this content. And if there's anything left over, it helps me to put food on my family's table. Okay? And it's just $5 a month. Okay. Just a text from my wife that I wanted to read. So consider it. Firebranded.fm. Firebranded.fm. And you can sign up for free. You get, first of all, signing up for free, you bypass the algorithm. So when I send out something important, even if it's for everybody, for the general public, you get notified about it. Okay, that just happened these past 2 weeks. There was something that the algorithm barely distributed, but the people who are on the mailing list at firebranded.fm knew about it. Okay, that's number one. And as a free member, you'll get at least one piece of commentary just for obviously the paid members get it too, but you can get the one piece of commentary for free every week. Okay. And it might be a short audio podcast with a little piece of writing with it. It might be an exclusive article, stuff like that. Stuff like Night Watch, which I haven't started producing yet, but I'm going to. It's a series of articles. Night Watch, The Fathers Know Best, and some of the premium stuff that I write or do, which up to now I've been making free for everybody. I think those are just going to be for paid members. Because some of that stuff is like really, really good. And like a chump, I'm giving it away for free to everybody, which is nice, but not when you're poor. When you're poor, you got, not only am I poor, but I have mouths to feed. I don't really have the luxury of saying, I'm okay being poor. Here's hours of my work for free. Well, I like to give you some hours of my work for free, but when you have mouths to feed, you have a duty to try and get a few bucks for your labor. You know what I'm saying? You have a duty to get a few dollars for your labor when you have mouths to feed. My mind is no longer all mine. My body is no longer all mine. My effort is no longer all mine. It really belongs to my family. You know, so I can share some of it for free, but I really need to start bringing in a little bit of money for what I do. Understand, the podcast proper is still free. If I do a regular podcast, like a couple of short audio podcasts a week, those will all be free. Or maybe the major episode of Firebranded will be for paid members. I'm thinking of doing that. So you're still going to get plenty of stuff for free. Don't get me wrong. Most of the stuff that you've been enjoying that I do, most of that stuff will remain free. Only a couple of things are going to be moved from the inner circle to just the paying members. Okay? Mountains of Asylum says, TJ, thank you for the work you do. I pray God blesses your ministry with an abundance of grace, blessings, and cash. Boy, that would be great. I'll share something personal with you, too. The Forge, I don't think will ever be big. Firebranded will never be big, I don't think. Because the reality, I hope that it does, but I really don't think it will be, because the reality of it is, I'm not saying what people want to hear. I'm saying what people need to know. When I do news coverage at theforge.fm, sometimes people cheer and clap, and sometimes people attack the shit out of me. And I stand by what you don't know what the folks tried to put me through when the church said, folks, don't use what was that title, that Marian title again? Co-redemptrix. When the church said co-redemptrix is a theological component, it's not really a title. Well, I was the first to support that. Okay, and I understand what co-redemptrix means. I was the first to support that, wrote articles about it, did podcasts about it. Those are all still free. You can still get those at theforge.fm. You don't know what the folks tried to put me through for taking a position in support of the magisterium for that teaching. I don't say what people want to hear. I say what people need to know. I defend the truth. I follow the facts, and so on and so on and so on. I do not participate in the cult of Catholic personalities because I have a duty to stay out of that shit, and I don't want that affecting my humility and such. So I specifically try not to be a rock star because I have a duty to not be a rock star. I have a duty to you and to the truth to not be a rock star. I have a duty to you and to the truth to stand on the truth, to uphold the truth, to defend the truth. And I catch a lot of hell for it everywhere. I wish I could be liked everywhere. I really wish I could be liked everywhere. But unfortunately, if you're doing the job right, that's just not going to happen. And that's something that I accept. So Firebrand.fm likely will never be huge. It'll always be good, but it'll never be huge. I think it's one of the best Catholic broadcasts out there. I really do. I try to bring my real personality to it. I try to be authentically me here. I try to be a little creative. I try to make you laugh. And it's not me performing. This is just who I really am, you know? Someone once gave me like a huge compliment. They said, you're like the Rush Limbaugh of Catholic radio. That was a huge compliment to me. Because, you know, not just because of the things that I say, but I try to entertain and try to keep things interesting. I think Firebranded is like tremendous. It can be better, but, you know, without a producer and a technical person at your side, it's only going to get so good. But for one person doing it, I think it's really excellent. It's not everybody's cup of tea. That's okay too. But I think it's good, but it's never going to be huge. The Forge also, that's never going to be. I just lost like 4 subscribers just last week. Free subscribers, not paying subscribers. But, and I know exactly the 4 who they are because it's 4 folks who for 2 weeks have been ganging up on me. I don't remember about what. I think it was like traditionalism stuff. I don't remember exactly what it was. All 4 of them kept losing their arguments because they were making stupid arguments. And I was defending the truth. Here are the facts. Here's church teaching. Here's the history of the church. Here's church fathers. All I'm doing, I'm just providing a voice. I'm not even writing the material. I'm providing a voice for the folks who wrote the material, the saints, the church. And pick and choose, you missed everything. Anyhow, and those chickens flew the coop, man. I get that all the time. Oh my God. On one of the sites that I used to do, which I don't have time to do anymore, Stoking the Embers. Listen, if I got 10 subscribers a week, I lost 20 the following week. I'm not even kidding you. Retention is very hard because people are looking for what they want to hear. They don't want to know what they're supposed to know. The Forge, I think, will never be big. It's good. If you've never visited it, you should check it out, theforge.fm. The articles are very good. The commentary is very good, very bold, very strong, very truthful, super fact-checked. There's little podcasts on there, monologues and stuff. It's very good. It'll never be big. So I hope the same thing that you're saying there, Mountains of Vasilium. I hope it gets huge, and I hope it brings in some cash to help improve my family's lifestyle. And not that we go to Maui or anything, but, you know, just to improve my family lifestyle. I don't think it'll ever be huge, though. But if you would like to help support a hardworking Catholic evangelizer who goes up against the storm of every opposer, whether they're pagans, secularists, Protestants, or Catholics who are erring, if you'd like to support that work, consider it. Okay, Firebranded.fm or theforge.fm. Those paid tiers, they are both $5 a month. The paid tiers will get you the same exact content, so you're not missing anything, except on Firebranded.fm, I have a little bit more technical freedom. So on occasion, there's going to be stuff that I publish there for the paid subscribers that I don't publish at theforge.fm. Also on Firebranded.fm, 100% of that revenue goes to me. On the on Firebrand.fm. At theforge.fm, I have to share 10% of that with Substack. So something to consider. Let's see. The Catholic Church is the ark of salvation, like Noah's ark. It's full of strange and magnificent animals. Oh, yes. No matter who you are in the Catholic Church, you will be right at home. It's a Peter Kreeft quote. Peter Kreeft is excellent, except the guy's just too damn smart. I once tried to read, he wrote a Summa to the Summa, right? So it's basically supposed to be like a simplified guide to reading the Summa. I still couldn't understand that damn thing. I've read some of his stuff. I've read some of Peter Kreeft's stuff that was very good, or I enjoyed it very much. But that one, that's an example of Peter Kreeft is like a genius and I'm a moron. I still couldn't follow that damn book. Anybody else saying anything anywhere that I should comment on? It's so weird. It's like theforge.fm, the live stream there just went, I mean, the stream is still working. The stream is still working, but nobody's saying anything. That was weird. That just like fell off. Nobody even said goodbye. Nobody was like, see you later, I gotta go. Nobody. So listen, those of you catching me, actually the two platforms, YouTube and Facebook, I want you to know that this shift in how I do the broadcast and stuff, this is actually going to work out for you in a way, because I do plan on doing stuff more casually and therefore easier to do, and therefore I can do them more readily. Do a quick Q&A and stuff. And my two main platforms are YouTube and Facebook. That's where the life is. So those are the ones I'm most devoted to. So this is going to work out for the both of you guys. Okay. All right. If there's nothing further, I see there's, looks like there's only 5 people in the live chat. But this is why I have to make this a little simpler, because I want to be present for things like just 5 people or 10 people. At one point there was 10 people. I want to be present for the tiny handful of people who show up, because I love you guys and I appreciate your support. But it's getting hard to justify all this stress and work for 5 or 10 people. But this shift in how I operate means I'll be able to be present for those 5 or 10 people in a live show without it killing me, you know? So I'm able to serve you better without it killing me. So all this is good stuff. This is not me stepping away from anything. This is just me changing how I do things. I really would still like to do something. Anyway, to sum that all up, I'm going to do YouTube live streams a little less frequently. I'm going to do pre-recorded, pre-published podcasts probably a little bit more frequently. Sign up for free at firebrand.fm for that. Apparently, I just reached 900 subs on YouTube. That's pretty good. Thanks for letting me know there, Lou G. And Oblate, thank you very much. I appreciate that. For once, I got my son to bed before you really started your show. It was great to catch a full live stream. And it was great to catch you here. You know, Mountains of Vasilian, you're always dropping interesting stuff in the chat room. It's always nice to see. All right, I guess that's going to do it, man. Did you notice I started the show without my opening music? Do you know why? I have a feeling it's annoying people. When I was looking at my analytics, I noticed like a few seconds in, the numbers go whoosh, and people leave. And after a while, now I'm thinking, is it this? People don't like hearing this? That could be. So what I think, but I don't care, man. I want to produce the show that I want to produce. So what I think I'm going to do is on the live streams, like stuff that's bound for YouTube, I'm just